Most cycling shoes suck because they don't match the morphology of the foot, the cleats are too far forward, and they have odd shapes to them. I'm going to tell you my journey to ultimate foot comfort and tell you how to decide if a particular shoe is right for you. There are 3 things to specifically look for. Are you ready to get your PhD in cycling shoe science? Let's rock on. What do I mean by morphology of the feet? It's the actual shape of the foot structure. My feet are different than your feet. Your feet are different than your wife's feet and your girlfriend's feet. Trace your feet on either a piece of paper or cardboard. Cut it out and you'll see. For example, here are 3 different foot structures. Look at this one. Now this, the big toe and the second toe and the third toe and fourth toe are kind of even, and it's a very long foot, very narrow, but look what you have here. This would be someone's bunion. Compare that to this foot. This foot is what's called a Morton's toe, where you have a normal shape right here, but the second toe right here is longer than the first toe. Check your feet, you'll see. This is pretty weird, but it's a very narrow foot. Compare that to this foot. This is my foot, by the way. Look how wide it is right here, and notice that the big toe is up here and it kind of caters down. Look at the difference here. You could see that these are different shapes of feet. And then what if you had a medical condition like a bunion? This is the key that you want to remember. Shoes should be shaped like feet. If you're lucky, you're going to find a shoe that fits your foot perfectly. So if this is your foot, the shoe should be shaped like this. If you have feet where these bones are wider, then you should have a shoe that matches the shape of your foot. I'll show you later on in the video how to pick a shoe that matches your particular foot. But to give you an idea, Physique, Sidi, those shoes tend to run narrow. Lake or Shimano shoes tend to run wide. The cleats are very often way too far forward. Can you please find me a bike fitter that says, yeah, what we need to do is we need to take this shoe and move the cleat all the way as far forward as it possibly can go? You can't find anybody that says that. They all say move the cleat back as far as you can towards the heel, as far back as the holes will allow, or at least find the area where the big toe is, that knuckle, and move it as far back from there as you can. Here's the main problem with the cleat being way far forward on the shoe. I'm going to give you a great example. Go to your local gym and start doing leg presses. Try to do the leg presses on your toes. Then, after attempting that, try to put your feet flat and do leg presses with your feet flat. See which one feels more natural and see which one gives you more strength. This is why people get foot numbness, tingling, burning. They get pain on the ball of their foot. They get achiness in the Achilles tendon and calf cramps. Some shoes come with odd shapes. For example, Specialized will have a cant in their shoe on the forefoot, so the heel is level, but the forefoot is tilted inwards on the inside of the shoe. Or for example, if you look at these shoes, these have a very crescent shape, like a crescent moon type of shape. I don't know anybody who has feet that are shaped like that. For example, this shoe does not have a crescent shape. This is more of a straight shoe. This shoe here has a crescent shape. For example, you look at Bonts and they have a bathtub structure where it feels like your foot is in a bathtub, so there's things on the side pushing on both sides. Some shoes will have quite a bit of toe spring. When toe spring is where the toe is pointed up like that, so they're almost shaped like that a little bit. Some shoes have a structure on the inside part of the shoe which forms an arch. If you don't want an arch, it's too bad because the shoe is built with an arch inside of it. So for me, with my journey towards foot comfort, I found that the Sidis were really good looking shoes. I really wanted Sidi shoes because they were just sexy looking. The problem was they really didn't match my feet. I mean, who can't resist high quality Italian shoes? The big problem was they were shaped funny for my feet. They were way too narrow, almost like wearing Nikes. Nikes tend to run narrow as well. They did have a mega size, but the mega size was big in the forefoot, but still too thin in the main part of the foot. They just didn't match my feet, so therefore I never purchased any CDs. Specialized shoes are great shoes if you want that cant in the forefoot of the shoe. I've had Specialized shoes, and when I used those shoes, I was totally comfortable, except for I wore out a pair of shoes. I actually went through 2 pairs of shoes, and then what ended up happening was I decided, shoes are the most important thing when it comes to cycling for cycling comfort. I wanted to get the next level shoes. I was going to buy the S-Works level of shoes, and I spent quite a bit of money on a new pair of shoes. Well, they did have a wide version. Since I was comfortable with the previous generation's shoes in wide, I purchased a very expensive pair of shoes in wide. When I started using them, I started noticing, boy, these do not feel wide at all. Now, it said wide on the shoe, but I just couldn't believe that they were so uncomfortable. I finally took some calipers out and realized that they were 4 millimeters more narrow in the forefoot than my previous generation. Well, I talked to the bike shop and they didn't really have an answer because they didn't know the difference. Wide is wide, right? So I ended up contacting the company Specialized and saying, hey, listen, I bought this pair of shoes. It says wide. I think they were mismatched or stamped or something because there's no way they're wide. They're 4 millimeters more narrow than my other previous generation. Well, I got an answer back. They changed their shoe, their lasting or their last of the shoe, and they made the wide version more narrow. So I ended up, because I used the shoes, I had to sell them on eBay for a loss. So then I tried some Bonds, and Bonds were known for some very good features, such as the shoe was flat, it had a wide forefoot, and so I gave them a try. And what I found was the bathtub style of shoe I just didn't like. They came with a little bit of an arch, which I didn't like that. I wanted to create my own arch that was more custom made through orthotics inside the shoe. And you were supposed to be able to put your Bonds into an oven, warm them up, and then push things out. For example, if you have a bunion. But I just didn't feel very comfortable in the Bonds, so I had to get rid of those. Then I started going with Shimano's, and Shimano's really worked well for me. In the world of wide shoes, they fit my feet. The nice thing about these Shimano's was that it had Velcro. I can open up the sides. It was flexible on the side, so my foot couldn't expand when it started to get hot or if you press down really hard. And I used these for a lot of years. These were my cyclocross shoes or mountain bike shoes, and they worked pretty well. What I did was I ended up drilling holes lower down to get the cleat more midfoot to make it go down farther, because if you were to put the cleat way up in here, it'd be right on my toes, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Shimano's work great about 90%, but I was always looking for just that extra 10%. So I finally bought myself some Lake shoes. These are my Lakes in wide, and I really like these shoes. I feel that I have found pretty much the best shoe I can possibly find. They're leather, so they can expand on each side. And when you look at how wide the forefoot is here, if you compare it to, for example, a Shimano, it actually is a lot wider. What I've learned about buying shoes are 3 specific things. Number 1, so look at the stock insole of the shoe to make sure that it matches at least the width and shape of your feet. You need to ask yourself, is this the shape of my feet? Let me give you an example. So check this one out. This is an insole, and if I put my foot on it, notice how my little toe literally goes over the insole. It doesn't fit. So in other words, in this situation, this insole that's shaped like the shoe is going to be too narrow. What's going to happen is it's going to squeeze my toes together, and that's going to be uncomfortable over a long period of time. Now notice this shoe or insole that came stock with the Lake shoe. If I put my foot over this, do you see how, let me just get this one out of the way here. This one here, this covers my entire foot. And so thus, by looking at the stock insole, I can tell that this shoe is probably shaped much better for my particular feet. This is an insole called an Icebug. Now this insole here will be perfect for me, except notice that if this was the insole of a shoe, the shoe is obviously too big. There's all this space in front of my foot. But if I had a Morton's toe, that the toe was extending farther out, this could potentially work for me. If you have a bunion or a shape like this, very seldom are you going to find a shoe that would allow this to have no strain on it. But what you do in this particular case is you find a shoe that's generally wide enough, or you can use some type of instrument that they sell online to expand the leather of the shoe. Those work quite well for either a bunion on this side of your foot or a bunion on that side of your foot. In fact, Lake shoes are very good in this regard because what they do, and I don't have one, but they have one pair of shoes that allows you to expand the outside of the shoe. So look into that. Also remember, when you ride a bicycle and you get up and sprint or you're pedaling hard, as your foot pedals down, the toes will expand. That is very important to understand. So if you try on a pair of shoes and they fit you and it's the morning, they may not fit you in the evening. Our feet actually expand after having pressure on them all day. So the best time to purchase a pair of shoes would be in the later part of the day when your feet have expanded a little bit. So what that means is they actually might be a little bit more narrow in the morning. If you try on a pair of shoes and they fit okay, well, as soon as you try to pedal really hard, your feet will expand sideways and they may not be comfortable over the long haul of a bike ride. The second thing to consider is the arch within the shoe. I like to buy a shoe that's very flat so that I can put an arch support in that would match my feet. This product right here, this is called a G8. It's the Pro Series 2620. I'll put a link down below in the description so you can look at these. But what's great about these particular arch supports is, number one, they're very thin in the front. So if you've ever put an arch support in where it's extremely thick right here, you'll know that it takes up space, and then suddenly a shoe that may fit you doesn't fit you anymore because this takes up a lot of volume. It allows for these different parts right here, and it comes with a number of different parts. I have a lot of videos on this to show you how to place this, but you can customize the arch here, 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 here. You can move it outward or inward. That's pretty cool. So you can modify this arch to wherever you feel you need it. And don't be surprised if it's different from one shoe to the other. Now, of course, you can get custom-made orthotics from a podiatrist or a chiropractor. That's fine. Also, this comes with a little wedge on the side, so you can actually cant the heel of the foot to whatever your liking is. And this just, how this works is it just kind of snaps on to where you need it right there, and you've got yourself a great orthotic that matches the arch perfectly to your foot. The third and final component is to make sure that your shoe matches the shape of your feet. And this is where, I don't know, some manufacturers are making shoes that just don't fit, at least my feet. They may fit yours, and that's what you need to find out. So again, like I said, Lake tends to work pretty good for me. Now let's do an honorable mention. This is a company, it's called Strong Feet Athletics. Okay, and I just talked to the guy, his name is Tyler, and they sent these shoes, and I'm gonna try these out. These look pretty cool because some of the features about a shoe First of all, look at the shape of the shoe. It looks like a normal foot. Remember the Cedes I was talking to you about? They had a very long and pointed type of shape, very narrow and long. Well, my feet aren't narrow and long. They look like more like Ronald McDonald. But look at this. This looks like the shape of a shoe. This is the bottom. There's not a whole lot of crescent shape here. And the thing about this shoe is the holes, there are holes for road shoes or mountain bikes, you can decide. But how this works is this, if you notice, is a flat foot. There is no toe spring, whereas some shoes will have a tremendous toe spring. Look at that. And with a toe spring, what that does is it causes tension on your plantar fascia. So a toe spring is where the shoe is modified up like this so that the toes are in this position. That tightens the plantar fascia and makes you more prone towards having plantar fascial issues. Having a shoe that is totally flat eliminates that entirely. Having a wide toe box that's shaped like a foot would be for most people allows the toes to splay when you press down on them. So I'm going to say that this shoe matches a foot very nicely. The reason why most shoes, like tennis shoes, will have a toe spring is it helps with push off when you're walking. But with cycling, you're not walking at all. You're riding. So I'll put their link down below in the description as well. So the absolute best cycling shoes are ones that fit the shape and morphology of your feet, that allow you to customize the internal arches and cants and tilts that are unique to you, and to where the shape of the shoe matches your feet. So the number one question is, what's the best shoe that I've ever found in general? And you're never gonna believe it, but it's this. Do you remember these? I still wear these. These are Vibram 5 Fingers. These are the best shoes ever. They have individual toes, so your toes can just move independently. They allow your toes to splay and move. They're wide enough. There's no toe spring. There's no heel rise. There's no arch support. Best shoes ever. Not for cycling, but for general life. Unfortunately, they don't make cycling shoes. I wish they did. So that's why we have to try to look carefully and see which brand would fit us the best for cycling. I would wear these everywhere all the time if it was socially acceptable. Children were just totally embarrassed when Dad would wear these. But I'll tell you what, total comfort. Unfortunately, they're like kind of the man bun of shoes.